Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most tragic and pivotal events in the history of the Targaryens and their dragons, the Dance of the Dragons. If you've ever wondered why only 3 dragons remain in Game of Thrones, stick around because we're about to unravel the tale of how almost all dragons died in this bloody civil war. So, without further ado, let's jump into the tragic fates of these magnificent creatures. First up, we have Caraxes, the dragon of Daemon Targaryen. Caraxes was one of the most significant dragons of his time, originally ridden by Aemon Targaryen before Daemon. This fierce dragon met his end in one of the most legendary duels of the Dance of the Dragons, the battle above the God's Eye. Daemon, riding Caraxes, faced off against his nephew Aemon Targaryen and his dragon Vhagar over Harrenhal. The battle was intense and brutal, resulting in both dragons plunging into the God's Eye, the largest lake in Westeros. Caraxes, despite being mortally wounded, managed to drag himself to shore but succumbed to his grievous injuries shortly after. This duel left a lasting mark on Westerosi history, showcasing the devastating power and equally devastating vulnerability of dragons in battle. Next, let's talk about Vhagar, the oldest and largest dragon alive during the Dance of the Dragons. She had a long and storied history, having been ridden by Queen Visenya Targaryen during Aegon's conquest. By the time of the Targaryen Civil War, she was ridden by Aemon Targaryen. She met her end in the same legendary duel as Caraxes. Despite her immense size and strength, she couldn't withstand the ferocity of Caraxes and the determination of Daemon. The two dragons locked in a death spiral, crashing into the God's Eye. While Caraxes managed to crawl ashore before dying, Vhagar perished in the lake, bringing an end to one of the most formidable dragons ever to soar the skies of Westeros. Moving on to Syrax, the dragon of Rhaenyra Targaryen. Rhaenyra bonded with Syrax when she was just 7 years old, and the two shared a deep connection. Syrax's death was particularly tragic and violent. During a massive uprising in King's Landing, an angry mob stormed the Dragonpit, intent on destroying the Targaryen dragons. Syrax, despite her size and strength, was overwhelmed by the sheer number of rioters. She was brutally killed by the mob in the chaos of the storming of the Dragonpit, a grim reminder of how even the mightiest creatures can fall to the fury of the masses. Vermax, the dragon of Prince Jacaerys Velaryon, also met a violent end. Jace and Vermax were involved in the Battle of the Gullet, a significant naval battle during the Dance of the Dragons. The Triarchy, allied with the Greens, launched a fierce attack on the Black forces. During the battle, Vermax was struck by a crossbow bolt which pierced his eye, causing him to lose control. The young dragon crashed into a burning ship, resulting in his death. Jace also perished in this battle, marking a tragic end for both the prince and his dragon. Dreamfyre, a dragon bonded with Princess Helaena Targaryen, had a dramatic and sorrowful death. Dreamfyre was initially ridden by Rhaena Targaryen before being claimed by Helaena. During the storming of the Dragonpit by the rioters in King's Landing, Dreamfyre broke free from her chains and fought valiantly against the mob. Despite killing many of the attackers, Dreamfyre was ultimately crushed under the collapsing rubble of the Dragonpit. Her death symbolized the fall of the Targaryen hold over King's Landing and the tragic end of many of their dragons. Moondancer, the dragon of Baelor Targaryen, was a young and agile dragon. Baelor and Moondancer faced off against Aegon Targaryen and his dragon Sunfire in a fierce duel. Despite her smaller size, Moondancer initially had the upper hand due to her speed and agility. However, Sunfire, being larger and stronger, managed to overpower Moondancer. The young dragon was ultimately crushed under Sunfire's weight, marking the end of another dragon in the Dance of the Dragons. Seasmoke, originally ridden by Lenor Velaryon and later by Adam of Hull, met his end during the Second Battle of Tumbleton. Seasmoke engaged in a fierce 3-way fight with Tessarion and Vermithor. During this chaotic battle, Seasmoke was mortally wounded by Vermithor. Adam, who wasn't riding Seasmoke at the time, survived but could only watch in agony as his dragon succumbed to his injuries. Sunfire, the dragon of King Aegon, was known for his magnificent golden scales and fierce demeanor. He was gravely injured at the Battle of Rook's Rest, but managed to escape. However, Sunfire never fully recovered from his injuries. After the battle, Sunfire spent his remaining days at Dragonstone. Despite being fed Rhaenyra Targaryen as a gruesome act of revenge, Sunfire refused to eat afterwards. He eventually died from starvation and his injuries, leaving Aegon devastated by the loss of his prized dragon. Meleys, known as the Red Queen, was initially ridden by Alyssa Targaryen and later by Princess Rhaenys. Meleys met her end in the Battle of Rook's Rest, one of the bloodiest confrontations during the Dance of the Dragons. Meleys, along with Sunfire, faced off against Vhagar. Despite her formidable strength and speed, she was ultimately overpowered by Vhagar. In a brutal display, Vhagar crushed her neck, and her body crashed into the walls of Rook's Rest, marking a decisive and tragic end. Vermithor, one of the oldest and largest dragons, was originally ridden by King Jaehaerys. During the Dance of the Dragons, he was bonded with Hugh Hammer, a bastard with Velaryon blood. Vermithor's end came during the Second Battle of Tumbleton. In a ferocious battle, Vermithor was attacked by both Seasmoke and Targaryen. Despite his immense strength, Vermithor was brought down by the combined assault of the two dragons. His death marked the end of one of the most powerful dragons in Westeros. Lastly, we have Balerion, the Black Dread, the most legendary dragon in Westerosi history. Balerion was the dragon of Aegon the Conqueror, and later ridden by King Maegor, Princess Aeria and King Viserys. Balerion lived for centuries and was a key force in uniting the Seven Kingdoms. Unlike the others, Balerion died peacefully of old age in 94 AC, shortly after being claimed by then Prince Viserys. His peaceful death stands in stark contrast to the violent ends met by so many other dragons. So why did the dragons nearly go extinct after the Dance of the Dragons? Several factors contributed to their decline. The Targaryens' hubris led to devastating battles that decimated their dragon population. Keeping dragons confined in the Dragonpit stunted their growth, making each generation smaller and weaker. Moreover, the Maesters of the Citadel played a significant role. They sought to rid the world of magic and fantastical creatures, including dragons. As Archmaester Marwyn suggested in A Feast for Crows, the Maesters may have had a hand in the dragon's decline, possibly through poison or other means. The last dragon died during the reign of King Aegon III in 153 AC, earning him the nickname Dragonbane. With no dragons left to breed, the Targaryens lost their most potent weapon, and dragons became little more than a legend until Daenerys Targaryen hatched her 3 eggs centuries later. The Dance of the Dragons was a catastrophic event that led to the near extinction of dragons in Westeros. Each dragon's death was a tragic chapter in the history of House Targaryen, showcasing the devastating consequences of civil war and the fragility of these magnificent creatures. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the tragic end of the Targaryen dragons, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more videos on the rich history of Westeros. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Dance of the Dragons and which dragon story you found the most tragic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.